Hi, I'm Grey Tiger, and welcome back to my user interface modding tutorial series for Warhammer 2. In the previous episode, we added some code for monitoring battles and updating a scripted resource, which we then used to modify our progress bar. In today's episode, we will take a brief look at log files and their uses in scripts. Now, to do this, we will need an additional mod from the Steam Workshop called the Script Debug Activator, which we have here. This handy tool allows you to enable logging through Lua's out function, where you can pass it a string, and that will be added to a log file created by the Script Debug Activator mod. Now, this is a great way of outputting values of your variables or tracking the interactions of users with your user interface. I also find it invaluable when hunting down script breaks, but more on that later. So, let's create the method we will need to output debug statements to this Script Debug Activator file. So we'll return back to our script from last time. Now we will need first of all to add a new variable which will tell us if we have logging turned on or off. So we will add that to our declaration section. So that's local m_tutorial, and then we'll call it logging enabled, and we'll set that to false to begin with. Oh, actually no, we'll set that to true. After all, we are going to be using it very soon. So there's our first declaration. Now we need a function which will wrap the out method. I prefer to wrap it in a function because then I can have some additional control over adding a prefix to what's output, so it's easy to find in the debug file. And I can also then check if the logging is enabled or not, and I don't have to go through and remove all of my output statements. So let's find a spot for this. We'll go down to the functions section that we have. There we go, functions. So let's scroll down to the bottom of that, which happens to be the very bottom of our file. So we're going to add a new function, and we're going to call this write to default and log file. And then we are going to pass that a string. We're going to pass that the text that we want to write. So like so. Okay, we'll end that function. So inside here, we're going to have one local variable, which we're going to call prefix. Now, prefix is what we're going to find at the beginning of the line that is sent to the log file. And it just helps us recognize our code over the other things that are inside that log file, because a lot of debug information ends up in there. So we will have, let's call this tutorial tutorial output. Keep it simple, and then put a space there so it doesn't smash into what we put. Yep, okay. Now we want to check, is our logging turned on? Is logging enabled? Okay, and if logging is enabled, then we use the out method, which is a Lua method, and we pass it the prefix, and then we concatenate the text onto that. So that out method takes a string, so we're passing our prefix string and our text string, and we're using the concatenation symbols to connect our two strings together. And that's all it takes. So that will, if given a string and if tutorial logging is enabled, output that to the log file that's managed by the Script Debug Activator. However, standing on its own like that, it's not going to do anything. We need to actually call it from somewhere. So let's call it from our battle completed. Yes, let's do it from there. So we will, when we first enter the function, we will call our write to default log file, and we're just going to say that we're entering this function. So we'll just copy the name of the function and paste it in there and just say enter, and then close that out like so. And then we'll just put something at the end of it as well to just say that we're exiting the function. So we can just keep the name of the function there and say exit, and then maybe we want to put in something that monitors the value. So maybe we'll look at the resource that was earned. So we calculate our resource earned in this section from here and here. So just before we use that resource earned, we will just output it here. So we will change the enter to resource earned is equal to, and then we need to concatenate that number into our string. So we use the string concatenation symbol, and then we can just say resource earned, that variable. Oh, excuse me. Not recourse, resource. Here we go, resource earned. So even though this is technically a number, Lua is smart enough to figure out that it's being concatenated to a string, so it will convert it for us. So we will end up with our battle completed resource earned is equal to whatever that is, and that will be thrown to the output log file as well. So that will do for now. That's all we want to output. So when we run our script and that's activated, we should get that information output to the default log file created by the script debug activator mod. So let's copy this code. Don't forget to save it off as well. And let's put this into our pack file. And I'm going to have to open up a new one. Bear with me for a moment. There we go. Let's see if I can find it. Open recent custom progress bar tutorial. There we go. So open this up and go to the script like so, and open that, and I want to get rid of everything and then paste the new thing that I just created in. So if we go to the top, we should see, yep, logging enabled, and if we go to the very bottom, we should see, yes, write a default log file, and then about halfway up we have our battle completed with our 3 outputs. Excellent. Okay, so let's save the pack file to our Warhammer 2 data directory. Good, which it's already at. Yes, I would like to replace it. Okay, and then let's go to Warhammer and start that up. And then we need to go into the mod manager and make sure that we select our script, our progress bar tutorial mod, and make sure that's it, that it is enabled. So where is it? There it is, right in front of me. Okay, we also need to make sure that we have our script debug activator enabled. So if you do not have this, it's very easy to find on the workshop. You just need to go to the main workshop page, type in script debug activator, and it's one of the first ones that will come up. Okay, so once you have your script debug activator enabled and you have your tutorial mod enabled, start up Warhammer, and we'll go into the game. Now, if I remember correctly, last time we limited our script to function only for Balthasar Gelt, I think. So we'll need to start a new campaign for Balthasar Gelt. Okay, so here we are in game with Balthasar Gelt, and we have our progress bar in the top left hand corner. So when we fight our first battle, we should find that our debug information will be output to the log file. Now the log file should have been created at this point, so if we go to our Warhammer 2 directory, Here we can see that the log file has been created. Script log 1017 and script log 1018. Now the first one, the smaller one, this is created when the mods are all loading up. So this is in the front end when you're selecting your lord and the campaign you're going to play. This second one, the larger one, is the one that's created when you're actually in-game in the campaign and contains a great deal more information. Now, there won't be any information from our mod at this point because we haven't actually come across the lines that add it to here, but you can see that there's an awful lot here, like there's things about loading values from the custom data. So you can see here that it's loading things for wild hunt, whatever, from a mod. Loading things about monsters. There's some things here. So here you can see it's loading information from my Medallion of Chakra mod because I have that activated at the moment. It's loading information from my Plague Monk mod. My Plagues of the Liber Bubonicus mod because I've also got that activated as well. And then it's loading a big chunk here and fair way down. Keep going down. Keep going down, keep going down, just a little bit more. There we go. It's loading a big chunk, which is all of my Hammer of Gruggony. So these are all the variables that are being kept track of in the background and saved, and so that when you reload your game, it remembers where you are. And you might notice that we have some new ones here for beasts, which will be coming in the 1.1.0 version. What else does it track? It tracks armies that are created by scripts and placed on the map. So it's quite interesting to look at those. If we go back up here, this was interesting. So this is dealing with agents and their positions on the map. So if you move an agent around and then immediately open up your log file, you can find exactly where that agent has ended up, which is great if you want to be able to create an army at a specific point. Just move an agent there, write down the numbers, and then you can use that in your script. It's fantastic. Now, there is something else. No, we haven't done that yet. So if we close this log file for a moment, go back to game, something else you could do with this is use it to determine user interface components that the player has clicked on. And then that will help you find the paths so you can then interact with those in your code. So for instance, if I click on the Colleges of Magic button down here, which has brought up that screen, if I go to my log file straight away, then the very last thing in the log file should be the interaction with that button. Yes, here we go. So you can see here, so we've got faction buttons Docker, which is the area in the bottom right hand side, then the button group management, which is a user component, and then button bloodlines. So that's the button I clicked on. I'm not quite sure why it's called button bloodlines, but that's the one that then opened up the panel with the different sorcerers on it. So anything you click on in the campaign screen will be output here, and it's a great way of finding out where different things are located and how to get to them using your Lua scripts. So anyway, let's put that aside for the moment and let's go into the game again. Don't really care about that at the moment. Let's see if we can fight this first battle and see if our script is actually outputting the information to the debug file. So let's attack these goblins. I don't really want to fight it. Let's take the money. Okay, so you can see our progress bar is still working. We got the resource, which put us into the first tier. But we want to go now to our log file again. So let's go to our directory. And you can see that that size has changed slightly. So let's go inside and then go to the very bottom. And somewhere here, if we are fortunate, oh, there we are, we find our code. So you can see that it came through an out statement, and there's our prefix tutorial output, and then we've entered this method battle completed, we have entered it, we earned 25 resource, and then we exit. So the 3 statements that we put into our script have all executed wonderfully. So there is one way to output values or other information to a log file. The downside here, of course, can be the sheer amount of information. I mean, when you scroll through here, if you've got a lot of things you're outputting to the log file and they're happening at different times, then it can sometimes be tricky to find what you're looking for. So there is, fortunately, a much cleaner and easier way to understand the flow of your script, and that's by using your own custom log file. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, we close this. We'll return to our script. Okay, so we need to create our function, and whilst our previous function was write to default log file, this time we will call it write to custom log file. Once again, it just takes in the text. Okay, so what do we want in here? What's the meat and potatoes of this function? Well, the first thing we would like to do is create a check to see if tutorial logging is enabled. So tutorial logging enabled, then we come inside and end. So first thing we want to do is open the log file and get a reference to it for our script. So local log file will be our reference, is equal to, and then we use something called IO, which is for input and output, and we're going to call IO open, and we're going to tell it we want to use the name inside our custom log file, and we want to write we want to open it so that we can write to it. And what that will do is that will overwrite everything that's inside there. So we've got that. Once we have that, we need to loop through our collection of output debug statements. Now, to do that, we need the collection or variable to manage that collection. So we'll just pop back up to our top of our script, and in our declaration section, we're just going to add a new variable, and this will be mtutorial log statements, I think we should call it. Then that's like so. Okay, so mtutorial log statements. Take that, go right down to the bottom, back to where we were creating that function, and we have to add to that. So table.insert, and we are inserting into that function, we are inserting our text. Yep, we are inserting our text like so. So we've opened our log file. Actually, let's move this above that, because that can happen before the log file is even opened. Okay, so we've got our text. We add it to our collection of statements that have to be logged. We're opening it up for a write, so we're going to overwrite everything that's in there. And then we are going to close it down here. Okay, so we open, we do our stuff, and our stuff is, so we're cycling through everything that is inside that collection tutorial log statements. So for underscore, let's call it line in ipairs. So this is one of the ways you can loop through a collection of items in the Lua script. And then we want the name of our collection, tutorial log statements, like so. We want to do, and then end. Okay, so this is our loop, and it's going to loop through every item in this collection, and for each item, line will get a reference to that item, and we can use line inside to actually output the information to the debug file. So we can go log file and then write, and we want to write line, and then we also want to make sure that the information, wrong thing. We want to make sure that the information goes to a new line every time, otherwise we just have one contiguous line of what would look like gibberish. So we want to make sure it goes to a different line, so it's easier to see. So we're closing our log file. Excellent. So now we need to make the calls to this function. So just select this and copy, and then we're going to go up to our battle completed function from before. So where we had write the default log file, we're just going to select that, and then we're going to paste over it. So we're now writing to the custom log file. So we'll do that in the 3 spots. Just paste over it, and once more, just paste over it. Okay, so we can now save that. So instead of writing to the default log file, it will end up writing to the custom log file. So let's select that, and then go to our pack file. Select this, delete and paste, then pack file, save as, and then we want to overwrite it in the Warhammer 2 data directory, like so. And then we want to start up Warhammer. So let's run Warhammer. Now this time we won't need to go into the mod manager because our mod will already be activated, as will the debug's script debug activator. So we can just go straight into play and go straight into the Balthasar Gelt campaign. So here we are once again in the campaign for Balthasar Gelt. So when we select him and attack the goblins to the south, if everything is working as it should, we should see some debug statements output to our custom log file. So let's go stomp some gobbos.
Let us begin.
And we'll let the computer do the stomping.
Pick up the pace.
And there they are, fleeing. Okay, so now if we go to our Warhammer 2 directory, we should see tutorial debug info log. Okay, 1 kilobyte, promising. Aha! So we open it up and we have battle completed, enter. We have the resource that we earned and battle completed, exit. Now this is much easier to make sense of than looking through everything that's inside this one. So while previously all our information was at the very bottom in one small section, if you've got many events being triggered and the user clicking on many different parts of your user interface, they can end up very separated by a lot of background code, if you will, which is being triggered from CA's files. So it's very handy to have your own little log file where everything is in a neat order and you can see exactly what the flow was of your code. It makes it easier to find out what the issue might be. So there we have 2 ways of outputting debug information to log files in Warhammer 2 scripting. So that's pretty much all we have for today. So I'd like to thank you for joining me, and I hope that you are finding this tutorial series interesting. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed the video, or not, give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. As per usual, I'd like to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you for the continued support of the channel. A special thanks goes out to Hot Apple Pie and to Cody Bonds. And if you would like to become a patron, then a link will be in the description section below. I'm Grey Tiger. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.